Have you ever turned on your console and thought, wait, was it always this loud? Or maybe the game takes a little longer to load. The fan sounds like a jet engine. The screen freezes for just a moment. And then it goes back to normal, so you ignore it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Consoles rarely die suddenly. They usually warn you first. Small signs, strange noises, tiny glitches, and thousands of gamers across the United States only realize what those warnings meant after their console refuses to turn on, right in the middle of a game. If you own a PlayStation, Xbox, or even a Nintendo system, there are clear signs your console might be on its way out. In this video, we're going to break down the warning signals gamers often overlook, why they happen, what they mean, and most importantly, what you can do before it's too late. Because ignoring these signs could cost you your saves, your games, and sometimes hundreds of dollars. Let's get into it. 2. Gaming consoles have become more powerful than ever. Modern systems like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are basically compact gaming PCs. They contain high-performance processors, advanced graphics chips, high-speed storage, and cooling systems packed into a relatively small box. But that power comes with a downside: more heat, more moving parts, more stress on the hardware. And here in the United States, millions of gamers are pushing their consoles harder than ever. Long gaming sessions, massive 100-gigabyte game installs, constant updates, and heavy online play all push these systems to their limits. A single 8AA game today can be larger than an entire library of games from just 10 years ago. Add in streaming, quick resume features, background downloads, and multiplayer servers constantly communicating with your console, and suddenly that small device under your TV is doing an incredible amount of work, which means hardware wear is real. Many gamers expect their consoles to last forever, but realistically, most systems start showing signs of aging after 4 to 6 years of heavy use. And if those warning signs appear, ignoring them usually makes things worse. Now let's talk about what those signs actually look like. The first warning sign is something many gamers notice immediately: unusual noise. Consoles normally make some sound. Fans spin, disks load, components cool down. But when your console starts sounding like it's preparing for takeoff, that's not normal. Loud fan noise usually means the system is overheating. Dust buildup is one of the biggest causes. Over time, dust collects inside the console and blocks airflow. The cooling fan has to spin faster to compensate, and that's when the loud noise begins. Sometimes the sound becomes so aggressive that it's louder than the game itself. This is especially common in older consoles that haven't been cleaned in years. But here's the part many people ignore. That loud fan isn't just annoying, it's a warning. If the system keeps overheating, internal components like the GPU or power supply can slowly degrade. And once those parts start failing, repairs can become expensive or impossible. The next sign is longer loading times. You might notice that your console takes longer to boot up. Games that used to load quickly suddenly take forever. At first, it might seem like a software issue, but often it's actually a storage problem. Older consoles that use traditional hard drives can slow down as the drive ages. Mechanical parts wear out. Data access becomes slower. The system struggles to retrieve files efficiently. Eventually, this can lead to corrupted data, failed updates, or games crashing unexpectedly. For gamers in the US with large digital libraries, this is especially important. Many people store hundreds of gigabytes of games on their systems. When storage hardware starts failing, reinstalling those games can take hours or even days, depending on internet speed. Another sign that often gets overlooked is random freezing or crashing. Picture this: you're deep into a multiplayer match. Everything is running fine. Then suddenly, the screen freezes. A few seconds later, the console either recovers or shuts down completely. This might happen once and you forget about it. Then it happens again and again. Frequent freezing is often tied to failing internal components, overheating, or corrupted system memory. In some cases, it can also point to GPU problems, and this is where things can get serious. Graphics processing units handle everything you see on screen. When a GPU begins to fail, the system might start producing strange visual glitches. You might see flickering textures, strange colored artifacts, or distorted graphics. Gamers sometimes describe it as the game looking broken. But the truth is, the game isn't broken. Your hardware might be. Another major warning sign is unexpected shutdowns. If your console suddenly powers off during gameplay, that's not something to ignore. Modern consoles have built-in safety systems that shut the device down when temperatures get too high or when power issues are detected. So if your system turns off randomly, it's often protecting itself. Unfortunately, repeated shutdowns can indicate deeper problems with the power supply or cooling system, and replacing those components is not always easy. Some consoles are extremely difficult to repair without specialized tools. This is why technicians often recommend addressing early warning signs before they escalate. Now, here's a sign that surprises a lot of gamers. Your console struggling to read discs. If you still use physical games, the disk drive is another potential failure point. Over time, the laser inside the drive can weaken or misalign. When that happens, the console might take longer to recognize discs or refuse to read them entirely. You might hear repeated clicking sounds as the system attempts to spin the disk. At first, it works after a few tries, but eventually it stops working completely. Disk drive failures were extremely common in older generations of consoles, and they still happen today. And if your entire game library is physical, losing that drive essentially locks you out of your own games. Now let's talk about one of the more subtle warning signs: slow menus. If navigating your console's dashboard suddenly feels sluggish, something might be wrong. Menus should feel smooth and responsive, but if scrolling becomes laggy, apps take longer to open, or system settings freeze, it can indicate deeper system stress. Sometimes it's software, but often it's a sign that the storage system or internal memory is struggling, and this is the part nobody talks about enough. Gamers often assume hardware failure means the console just stops working one day, but most of the time the system slowly deteriorates first. Tiny issues build up, performance drops slightly, glitches become more common, and eventually the system reaches a tipping point. Now let's look at how these problems actually affect gamers across the United States. First, there's the cost. A new console today can cost anywhere from $300 to $500 or more. And during certain periods, especially during high demand or supply shortages, getting a replacement can be extremely difficult. Gamers remember how hard it was to find new consoles during recent hardware shortages. Stores sold out instantly. Online listings disappeared in seconds. So when a console dies unexpectedly, replacing it isn't always easy. Then there's the data problem. Many gamers assume their saves are automatically protected, but that's not always the case. If your console fails before data is backed up to the cloud, you could lose dozens or even hundreds of hours of progress. Imagine losing an entire RPG save file you spent months playing. It happens more often than people realize. And then there's the timing. Consoles have an uncanny ability to fail at the worst possible moment, right before a major game release, in the middle of a competitive season, or during a long weekend when you finally have time to play. But here's where things get interesting. Not every warning sign means your console is doomed. Sometimes small fixes can extend its life significantly. Cleaning the system, improving ventilation, updating software, or replacing storage drives can solve many problems early. And that brings us to the bigger conversation around gaming hardware reliability. There are some real advantages to modern consoles. They're powerful, efficient, and packed with features. Compared to older generations, many systems now include better cooling designs, faster storage technology, and smarter system management. But there are also challenges. High-performance hardware generates heat. Compact designs limit airflow. And constant online connectivity means consoles are always under load. Some gamers love the simplicity of consoles. You plug them in, install a game, and start playing. But others worry about repairability. Unlike PCs, many consoles are difficult to upgrade or fix. Once a major component fails, replacement is often the only option. Public opinion around this issue is divided. Some players accept hardware aging as a normal part of gaming. Others believe manufacturers should design systems that last longer or are easier to repair. And this debate is growing louder as gaming hardware becomes more expensive. Looking ahead, the future of consoles could look very different. By 2030, Experts believe we may see more hybrid systems combining local hardware with cloud processing. This could reduce the strain on individual consoles and extend their lifespan. Cooling technology is also improving. New materials, better thermal design, and more efficient processors could help reduce overheating issues. There's also increasing pressure for more repairable electronics. Some policymakers and consumer groups in the United States are pushing for stronger right-to-repair laws, which could make it easier for gamers to fix their devices instead of replacing them. And if that movement grows, future consoles might be designed with easier maintenance in mind. But until then, gamers still need to take care of the systems they already own. So what should you actually do if you notice these warning signs? First, keep your console clean. Dust buildup is one of the most common causes of overheating. Regularly cleaning vents and ensuring good airflow can dramatically extend a system's life. Second, make sure your console has proper ventilation. Don't trap it inside a tight cabinet. Leave space around it so heat can escape. Third, back up your data. Cloud saves or external storage backups can prevent devastating data loss if hardware fails. Fourth, listen to your console. If the fan suddenly gets louder, games start crashing, or loading times increase, don't ignore it. Those signs are your early warning system. Finally, consider professional repair before things get worse. Small fixes early on can sometimes prevent major failures later. At the end of the day, consoles are incredible machines. They deliver cinematic games, massive online worlds, and unforgettable experiences from a box sitting under your TV. But like any piece of technology, they don't last forever. And the difference between a minor issue and a total hardware failure often comes down to one thing: whether you notice the warning signs. So the next time your console starts acting a little strange, don't just ignore it. It might be telling you something important. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe to Tech Vibes for more deep dives into the technology shaping our digital world. And I'm curious, have you ever had a console suddenly die on you? What were the warning signs you noticed before it happened? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, stay curious and keep those consoles running cool.